Okay, so I would like to call the facilities committee meeting to order at 5:50. Can I get a motion?
I motion that we start the meeting at 5:50. Sorry, y'all can't hardly hear back here.
I second.
All right. Now I would like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
I motion that we adopt the agenda as printed.
I second.
All right. And now I would like to make a motion that we adopt the minutes. Has everybody got a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
All
So
right.
now I would like to ask for a motion for the minutes.
I motion that we adopt the minutes that was printed for the last meeting.
Second.
Okay. All right. It has been second. I don't have to do no roll call, so let's go on with the agenda, and that is printed. Do you have it up on the screen, Mr. Week?
I don't, but I've got it right here in front of me. The first on the agenda for the discussion items is football field renovations update. And the update is that our plan is to put a bid out here in the next, I would say 3 to 4 weeks. Get that out and probably bring it to the June meeting. Construction would begin at the end of the football season, so sometime in November, late November, 1st of December. Another purpose for that is because we really want to take advantage of winter pricing. Winter pricing, it can be anywhere between 10 and 15% less, and they don't, and it doesn't matter if they do it in the winter or the summer. It's like winter work, and so time frame wise, it's anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks, so that puts us right at the beginning of track season. So it should be completed by the track season, is what they're telling me. We'll get those bids in, and I'll bring you some. I have some sketches, actually, not sketches, but some mock-ups of some football field stuff right now. I can send that to the committee so they can just kind of get an idea of what. I had a couple guys come by and just kind of give me an idea of graphics and what those graphics could look like on the field. So I'll send those to you, just kind of give you kind of an idea of what it might look like. It doesn't have to be those, but they just wanted to kind of give us some color schemes and graphics that might be available for us at that time. So.
Okay, with the football field, there's no way we can get it back by the May meeting. You're saying we have to get it back by June?
Yeah, we've got plenty of time, and I don't. Most contractors are struggling to get out as we speak. They're not meeting people, so we'll get it out here in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll probably bring it to the June meeting for a final vote. So, and we really don't need to do it till October, to be honest. But I want to get it done now, get on their schedule for November. So if we get it done June, we're way ahead. So.
Now, Justin, will you have anything to do with this, or is this going to be separate from Justin, Mr. Weekly?
No, this will be separate from Justin. We're going to do this. This was our decision, was to kind of go forward with this regardless, especially with the PIAC money. And then the district, if the bond doesn't pass, the bond money would pay the other half of it. Whatever was left from the $240,000 that the PIAC grant was going to pay for, whatever's left, we would pay out of bond money for the field. If the bond does not pass, then the district was just going to fund the remaining amount of the football field from the minus the PIAC grant.
So do we have
done.
So we don't have any estimates of what the field is going to cost right now, basically.
Well, the mock-up that I'm going to send you is somewhere between the cost of it is really based upon the cost is going to be relatively the same. Where you get into some upgrades is the level of artificial turf that you get. You can kind of get a good, better, and best. Also, it kind of depends on the graphics that you use and the color you use. Some colors are more expensive than others. If you have a whole host of graphics, then each graphic that you put on costs a little bit more. So I'll send you a couple different ones that a guy that I know has done some football fields in the area. Like he did Smithville last year and a couple other places. He came by and just said, here, let me give you some mock-ups, just to kind of give you an idea of what the graphics could look like. Don't have to do it that way. but you're going to see a price range somewhere between $500,000 up to about 550, depending on type of turf that you pick. You can do an 8 to 10 year turf. You can do a 12 to 15 year turf. Then you got to kind of get into that 15 to 20, which doesn't always work. Really, you kind of want to go for that 12 to 15 year turf. It's usually the best bang for your buck. Plus the graphics that go with it. That big eagle head that we have. One of the mock-ups had the real big eagle head in the middle. Had a blue Ruskin at one end and a yellow eagles at the other. So there's all different kinds of things you can do. But I'll send those to you to kind of get you started thinking about what that might look like. And of course, we'll share those graphics with the football coaches and the AD and the principal, and get their input as well. In fact, I've already showed them. I've met with them already and showed them some of the mock-ups just to kind of get an idea of what they think they'd like as well. So, but I'll share that with the committee just so they can look at them.
Miss Carter, you got anything?
No, but I'm going to step away just for about 2 minutes. I'll be right back on.
Justin, anything? Yeah, you've had experience.
That's what I was going to ask you. Okay, Mr. Carter.
Okay.
No, Dan, I think you're right on the money there. I think the turf costs. One thing that I would kind of be aware of is what they're going to have to do with any kind of sub base stuff that they're going to have to maybe redo. That could increase that cost a little bit, just depending on what they uncover when they pull back that existing turf and before they put the new one on, they're going to want to redo some base. But yeah, you're right on the money when it comes to your turf options and things like that. Yeah, for a football field, your GMAX is going to be your concussion protocol, your GMAX, your impact is going to be your big piece. So as long as you're aware of that, you're in good shape.
And one thing I want to make sure everybody's aware of, and just make this statement that, and we've talked about a little bit, we want to include the service contract with this. We want professionals taking care of our fields with professional equipment on a yearly basis. That maintenance can really make a huge difference in how long you can keep that field in a high quality condition. So if you do that maintenance agreement, which oftentimes can be a part of that package, it's going to make your field play so much better and last so much longer and be much safer for your kids on a long-term basis. So it's really kind of a one-time-a-year maintenance. They pull up all those black little pieces, they clean them, and then they put them back down. Usually that's done one time a year. You can do it twice a year, but you really only need it once. And it really makes a big difference on the longevity of your field and the performance of your field long term.
Mr. Weekly, I would like, because I think we had spoke about that too. I know we was talking about getting talking about that year thing, but it would be nice if we can get someone in our district, if they can, and train them and let them be over the fields somehow, so that therefore we can cut back some costs later on. Maybe they can get trained and get the machines ourselves. To whereas I think that was something that was wrong the last time. They had a machine and they stated that it was broken. I don't know what happened with that last machine, but it would be nice to get somebody up to date and up to speed on that, because that would be good to have them knowing what is going on.
Sure. I know their minimum is like a 3-year maintenance program right when you start. So we could, after that 3 years, maybe that's something we can perform ourselves with the right equipment and right training. So.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Ms. Johnson, you got any questions about that? Is President Briggs on there?
No, she's not on the phone.
Okay. Ms. Carter, you got any more questions?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. All right.
The next on the agenda was student count in school buildings, and that was actually supposed to be for the finance committee. So somehow that got on the wrong agenda. So.
Well, no, here's what I was saying. Yeah, it is on us. The reason why I stated that is because it was brought up in the forum, whereas we had, I think it was by Director Watry, whereas we had spent a lot of money on 2 of the buildings that had gotten closed. And my thing is that before we do anything with all this, now that we have found out that schools are closed for the rest of the year now, before we start really like looking at all the buildings, maybe we can get at least a estimated count of how many of our schools, how many are in the elementary school, so that before we start putting any money into them, if and hopefully hopefully we won't have to do it. But if it does happen, we won't just start investing money in schools and then all of a sudden we close that school. So that was
We
the
have,
reason why it was on facilities right now, because it was brought up by one of the directors the last forum.
we have accounts for every single school building, so that's not we can give that to you, at any point. We have the student count for every school building and how many kids are in each school. So that's readily available information. If you want that, we can supply that to you.
Yes, and I think that would be helpful for all the facilities people, because like I said, and also probably just give it to the rest of the board. I know you stated that you're going to bring it up in the finance, but I think it would be good so that therefore they'll have that piece, because it was brought up in the forum last week. That's the reason
Sure.
why I got it. Yes,
Not
sir.
a problem.
Okay. Any other questions about that, Ms. Carter, Ms. Johnson, anyone? Okay, moving right along.
Next on the agenda was bond project update on cafeteria storage rooms. I'll kind of defer this to Justin a little bit. I think he's done a little bit of research on the buildings. He's been looking at floor plans. And I know there was a comment at the last forum that we had regarding that. So Justin, if you want to report back here.
Yeah, so I spent a little bit of time today kind of going through and looking at pulling up the floor plans of several of the elementary schools. And what I have found is just general table storage. Let's just stick at the elementary school level. We're going to need probably somewhere around 300 to 400 square feet, which is about half of a typical classroom for that table storage piece. I pulled up plans for Dobbs, Truman, Santa Fe, and looked at those pretty closely and was not able to find any locations that are close to the existing cafeteria gym areas that would kind of fulfill our need for cafeteria table storage. I did look into a little bit of what it would take to do some additions, and I'll let you guys know, just as the finance group, when we do additions that are that small, there's no economy of scale. And what I mean by that is when we do a 10,000 square foot, 20,000 square foot addition, we can get those costs down to, $200-$300 a square foot. When we do small additions like this, we're going to pay probably closer to $600 to $800 a square foot to do these additions. So that'll have to be something that we take into account if this is something we move forward with, in terms of, do we want to encumber those higher per square foot cost for table storage to do that scope of work. So something we can continue to look at, but it is a bit of a concern budget-wise for me a little bit, but ultimately that is your all's decision. So to me, it's getting with probably the building principals and seeing if we can carve out interior space that already exists. That would be our best option. But looking at the floor plans as they sit, I wasn't able to find good locations today when I was kind of going through the floor plans of the existing buildings.
So I guess, Justin, so what you're saying is the bigger this footage, the cheaper it is. Shorter the footage, the higher it is.
Correct. Yeah. So a contractor is going to charge us so much money to come out and just be on our job site no matter what we do. And if we do that and they're there for, 6 months to build something, fantastic. That cost goes down dramatically when you do a larger addition. We're gonna be hit with those fees and charges no matter what. And when you do a very small addition like that, that's what really bumps up that per square foot cost.
Okay, because I know it was brought up in the forum also, because everybody was seems like they was kind of livid about that, trying to get those tables out of there, which is true. We all have seen this in our cafeterias, and
Right.
Especially a lot in the elementary and up in Ruskin too. So
Yep.
Those were some of the things that were in consideration. Hopefully the board will be looking in and examining that and listening to you as far as the architect wise and looking at the space. So yeah, I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I'll have some graphics the next time we meet as a group and I'll be able to illustrate that a little bit more clearly so you guys can see what I'm talking about and the spaces that we would need. And then I'll reach out to Universal, who is our construction manager, and I'll just see if I can get Joel to maybe shoot us some high-level ballpark numbers of what that would be if we did additions that are that 400 to 600 square foot range to accommodate the storage we would need for that.
Okay, Miss Carter, you have anything?
No. Oops, sorry. Not at this moment, but I was, that's a good idea about those tables. So you said we can utilize if we have extra space in the schools, looking around to see if we have extra space, some
Yep.
classrooms that they're not using, and putting those cafeteria tables in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I'm with Reagan. It's like having those cafeteria tables is kind of overwhelming. I already don't like the fact that we have a cafeteria, a gym, an auditorium all in one. That's a lot. So yeah, I get you.
I just shared my screen. I don't know if you guys can see. I know some of you guys are on your cell phones and whatnot, but this is just an example of the gymnasium that we have at Ingalls with the stage to our left, the multi-purpose room right when you walk in the front doors, it's on your left, right? And when you look at it, there's just really no good location for us to place table storage. You have the office. When you walk in the front door, the office, the nurse is to the right.
Right.
And we have the kitchen on the other side. We have classrooms and bathrooms across the hallway. So, on this one, as I see it, there's just no good clear cut.
It isn't. Yeah.
Square footage and make it what we need it as interior space. And I've kind of hit that roadblock with other sites too. So that's just an example of, I'll explore those options a little bit and come back to you with more graphics and kind of walk through the sites. And if we can do it, we'll do it. If we can't, we'll maybe try to find another solution. So.
Okay.
I know we're looking forward to when you bring that back, Mr. Justice. So
Yes.
That'll be something good. I know that the board, and I think that should be put on the. You said we're going to be. When is our meeting with each other is coming up? When? Will you have that?
I do. I think we have a meeting in about 2 weeks. I think was our next one.
Okay. All right. Well, then that's something that you will have all those drafts ready for them also.
Yep. I'll be ready for that next meeting with all that information. Yes.
Okay. Sounds great to me. All right. Anything, Mr. Wiggly?
No, that's all that was on the agenda. Just the April 16th board meeting at 6:30.
Well, I thought I put something on there about the options of the bond too, or something like the option 1 and option 2. It was something that I had put on there. I had told her to put on there.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda, but if you want to talk about it, I guess we can.
Well, I guess it was a concern that was brought up from the forum with the options that you have given us, Mr. Justin. You gave option 1 and then you gave option 2 and 3.
Right.
And I think in terms of, I know the board is going to come together and make the final options of what they want done. But right. I think that I think the mostly was when you did option number 1, that really focused on basically everything, but that option 2, 3, and I think it was 3 options, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there was 3.
Do you have those with you again?
Yeah. So I can kind of go through.
You share your screen and put that up again. I think it was something that was a concern about when we went into the option 2 and 3s.
Yep.
That's from what I was listening to.
Yep. Let's see here. All right.
I think the major focus was in really when you was doing the options 1, 2, and 3 was to really focus on the 1. It looks like from what I'm listening to, because we kind of got off when we started talking about, well, we'll put this here and put that there. And
right.
That option 1 kind of hit everything. I mean, I know, and it was good that you did give everybody an option, but it sounded like it kind of got more in depth as you showed those other options.
Yeah, I did. The other ones raised a lot of more questions. I think everybody, I agree with you, Mr. Reagan. I think on this one, option one was the one that kind of gave every single one of the kind of, hot topics that were brought up in the surveys and on our long range plan efforts, our assessments. Option one gives pretty good attention to each one of those scopes of work that were identified. So this is option number one on your screen here, and it shows about a third of the roof improvements, about a third of the HVAC, doing about half of our parking lot, completing all 100% of the secure entries. So secure entries at every building. Ruskin doing the theater for our fine arts focus. Athletics, we would be upgrading and doing renovations to the Ruskin gym, the locker rooms that are down underneath the existing gymnasium, and then assisting with the turf replacement that we talked about a little bit earlier in the meeting. Interior improvements were something that was pretty big on the list. So here we've identified $2.8 million worth of painting and ceiling repairs and things like that, just to kind of spruce up the interior of the buildings. Another part was modernizations or exterior improvements, just to make the curb appeal a little bit better. So we've set aside $2.25 million to do that. And then another kind of exterior improvement that gives us a lot of bang for our buck, not only for curb appeal, community involvement, engagement with the use of these, but also safety and security, was playground turf. So going in and looking at upgrading some of the playgrounds at the elementary schools. So that's how we got to the $30 million of no tax increase for option number one. Option number two was the one that kind of started to raise some eyebrows, because this really focused in on just the exterior improvements more so than kind of some of the other stuff. So we kept the roofs at a third, but we really upped the HVAC and plumbing improvements, and we're doing all the parking lot improvements. Those are the major differences. We are still doing 100% of the secure entries. And then we upped the fine arts allotment by adding in the band, choir, and orchestra rooms and doing major renovations to those spaces too. For athletics, the difference between option one and two is that we added concession stand renovations at the football field, allocating some money to help those restrooms out in the concession area. And the big difference here is we're not doing any interior improvements, no ceilings, no painting, no floors, no nothing. And we wouldn't be doing any exterior improvements, that curb appeal piece, including playgrounds. So I think that's why we got more questions on this one, Mr. Reagan, is because it was such a drastic, wait, you're not going to do any of that work. You're not going to do any ceilings or flooring or whatever. And I think that's why we did kind of get some eyebrows to be raised and some questions to be asked about option number two.
Yes, sir. And then too, I guess really too, while I was looking at this, is the fact that, as we saw with the Irvin, Irvin, we ended up having to add on a lot of additions even after the renovation of the last bond. And so I think we didn't want to run into all that again. That was another problem, that costed us extra money when we didn't really, I don't know if we missed it or what had happened with that, So I think that's why when I was talking about, let's look at how many kids we approximately have in each building, that approximately might be, well, we can, do a little, say, hey, well, we might have 500 next year, because we know that these kids will be coming from here before we do all this. And then we start doing it all as we saw, or we miss something like we did the last time and we end up spending money. So I want to make sure that the ones and the twos and the threes, we're making sure that we take that all in consideration. That was the main thing, Mr. Justin.
Yep. I hear you loud and clear on that one. I do.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think, like I said, I don't see anything else right now that comes to my mind about anything at this time. Mrs. Carter, did you see anything?
No, I didn't. I was just listening to you about, making sure that we have enough students for, next year, instead of investing all this money into all this new project. And, just kind of thinking about the budget on top of that, the money we're taking out, spending on all this stuff. It's nice. I think it looks wonderful. I would love to have that type of stuff, but just consideration on how many kids we're going to actually have next year. That's the thing of not knowing right now. So I'm with you, Mr. Reagan.
Well, like I said, I just want to make sure because I think it's going to be important that the board is taking a critical look at all these projects that's going on, especially with the new laws that have been passed here lately that will be introduced to the board coming up. So therefore, it's critical that the board really takes a real look at what's going on instead of just sitting back. It's going to be time of governments to really watch everything and make sure, Mr. Justin, if you don't mind, making sure that all the board members, old, new, or whatever's coming up next, know really what's going on. They
Absolutely.
understand the concepts of what they see. They understand what you're saying, so that therefore they'll be more included. It might take them some more time. You might have to teach some more than others. So,
Right.
that'd just be because they need to get more involved and know what's really going on. I think it's important that the board knows what's going on in their district at all times, than to sit around and depend on someone else to tell them. So that's just me, So Justin, I'm gonna put that in your hands, and I know that the teacher that you are, even though you didn't get your education in teaching, you could have been a teacher. You could, you make sure you can give that to them.
Absolutely.
But,
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
And I plan on communicating it in several different forms: written form, oral. We'll have these videos that we can go back and watch. So we'll have plenty of documentation on how we got to where we got. That I'll be happy to go over that with any new board members, or if there's any questions, it'll be there so we can reference, how we started, and then how our path took us, and then why we ended up where we ended up. Absolutely. Yep.
All right, Justin. Well, I do want to thank you for the presentation today, and I want to thank you for all the things that you are doing as far as getting the information out, and keep on working with PIO as much as possible, because it's very important that we really, with the schools being closed, that we really get this bond passed. I don't know how. We're going to have to do something now that school is going to be out for the rest of the year. It's going to be really critical that we all working together to get this done.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, is there anything else on the agenda for tonight, Mr. Weekly?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, with all that being said, I would like to make this an adjourn meeting. I don't have everything in front of me, so Mr. Weekly, I'm gonna turn it over to you to go ahead on before we adjourn to let everyone know what's coming up next, because I don't have my agenda in front of me.
Yeah, coming up next is Education Accountability on April 13th at 5 o'clock. Finance Committee is Tuesday, March 14th at 5:30. Policy Committee meeting is May 5th at 5:30 p.m. And then our facilities meeting is tentatively planned for May 7th at 5:30.
All right. Well, I do appreciate that. With that all being said, if there's any other further discussion, Ms. Carter, Ms. Attorney Johnson, anything from you guys before I adjourn?
No.
Nothing on my end.
Right. So now I'm going to say that we adjourn this meeting at 6:19. And I want to thank everybody for being on this meeting. Once again, I do apologize for not being here on time. I do want to apologize. Everybody be safe and take care. And God bless.
God bless you too. See you guys.